just to give a little bit of background to what this means, there has been a lot of, for a long time, in-house counsels were kind of played like a role of managing legal work rather than actually doing cutting edge legal work. At least that was a notion for a long time in the legal industry, maybe 20, 30 years back. And increasingly, in-house counsels today are playing a central role in the legal work that businesses do. And instead of being just people who get some work done, they have taken the role of strategizers, friend, philosopher, guide to the business owners, to the process owners, and not only that, they're in the driving seat of the legal process as far as large corporations are concerned. And it has become a very prestigious area to work in, and a lot more jobs are getting created in the in-house legal space than in law firms or anywhere else. So the creation of lucrative jobs in the in-house sector is very high. So with that background in mind, we have to listen to Pooja today about how lawyers don't remain just lawyers but become very critical decision makers in organizations. How do they become integral to the business strategy, to the growth strategy of a business, right? So welcome, Pooja. Thank you for making time for this. You already have written a great article which I'm going to share with everybody. I think people are still joining in, so we'll wait. I'll share that article also with everybody. So just in case they want to have some background reading. But as we begin, we would love to hear about little more about you, like, who are you and how did you come to be an in-house counsel? What has been your experience? Maybe we can start with that.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ramanuj. And thank you for providing me this opportunity. And thank you everyone for joining. It's a Saturday and I really, really appreciate your interest and taking out time to hear me out. My name is Pooja, as Ramanuj has very kindly introduced me already a little bit. I'm a lawyer and a corporate secretary, and I've been in this profession for about 20 years now, 2 decades. And I'm those rare breeds of lawyers who were a company secretary first and then went on to do their laws. So my story is a little bit of a U-turn. And I'm also rare breed in the sense that I started my job or my professional journey in-house only. So I've not gone to the training ground of a law firm first and, like a finishing school. I've not been finished by a law firm, but I joined the in-house business profession from day one. It's been a very interesting journey. Out of the 2 decades, 16 plus years I've spent in the alcobev industry, and the remaining as well in very, very highly regulated setups and highly regulated sectors. And the good part of that experience is that, those sectors really need the lawyers. So the lawyers are an imperative there. They are the pillars of those sectors, because as you move forward, if you're looking for growth, even if you're looking for license to operate, legality of the issue is the prime concern there. And today what I'm going to share with you is something that you guys already know, that the age of the general counsel or the in-house counsel is finally here. And it seems like it's, going to stay. And what we are seeing is a rise of the importance and how people perceive the department is getting more and more traction virtually across all sectors. And because of that, you also see a transformational shift in the law firms and how they are accommodating these changes as in-house counsel gains more sort of a proprietary role, a conscience keeper of the organization, and actually sitting at the board or sitting with the management teams, virtually deciding on a lot of things, right from strategy to issues to crisis to growth strategy to public policy to regulatory, and actually the position has become a partner of sorts. And the basic intent behind this discussion with Ramanuj is, we as lawyers, and I shared with you that I've spent 20 years in the profession, we did not have these insights. We learned it the hard way. We fell down, we made mistakes, and we had a lot of learning at hand at the job, where you had to really struggle. But if there can be a way where we can pass on this knowledge, or there is a knowledge transfer to the people who are going to consider an in-house move, or they're going to start out as an in-house counsel. These are some of the tips and tricks, as I call them, very handy when you go out and start your professional journey, or you change or you transition from a law firm to an in-house counsel role. And I'm very happy to take varied amounts of questions, and I don't know it all, but I can share with my experiences on what I did right and where I went wrong, and how did I manage the whole whole 20 years of worth of experience that I have accumulated now.
Great, awesome. So I have launched a poll for everybody to answer. So just so you know,
Okay.
who are the people today in the session? What do they do? We get a sense of it. And I would request everybody to answer the poll, please. I see it so far 9 of you, 10 of you have answered it. Even the rest, if you could answer, answers are pouring in. Great. So from what we can see, a lot of people are yet to answer, but around 30% litigators and 53% law students and 6% in-house counsels and 13% others. I don't know who the others are.
So you see,
Okay.
Ramanuja, these others are very important for lawyers. They need to grow.
Yes, of course. That's very true. Okay, so 81% have voted so far. So yeah, great. So there's a mixed bag. There are people from different backgrounds. Great. So thank you for sharing that. And you can introduce yourself in the chat. Just write, who are you? Where are you logging in from? Which city are you logging in from? What do you do? And your questions, of course. So as you share your questions, we can take them up, throughout the discussion. Whenever we find something relevant, I'll at least know the questions that are coming. It really helps me to ask the right questions at the right time. So please share your questions in the chat. Would be very, very useful. Okay.
Ramanuj, you mentioned that there are a lot of law students in the group as well.
Yeah. Right now, there are like 12, and out of 24, 25 people right now, 12 of them are law students, and rest of them are litigators and in-house counsels and others. Okay.
So I want to share a small story. And,
Sure.
That people generally, when they're lawyers especially, and it's a very intellectual profession, and people, when you meet them, they will ask you, what kind of a lawyer you are, or what made you become a lawyer, right? And I have a very, very interesting story here. Like I mentioned, I started out as a corporate secretary first. I had no intentions to do law. I was very happy, that company secretary. I'm like the 5,036 number, very initial batch. And it was a very little known profession at that point in time. But it was coming up, and there was statutory requirement to have one. So I thought that was a great field to pursue. But when I started to work in-house, and I had 2 amazing mentors, and I worked with both the mentors for different periods of time, and both lawyers, both stalwarts in what they do. They are veterans in the FMCG space. They have been in the alcohol companies for decades, and worths of experience there. And what I saw, Ramanuj, was one guy was extremely commercial, very, very hardcore on practical business aspects. He was the favorite lawyer of everyone, and anybody had any issues, they would just walk up to him. And he would always have external counsel, and he will always have his team help people who are coming to ask him a question. But he was more like a very commercially appropriate and very business lawyer kind of a mentor. And then there was a second guy who was extremely by the book. He wanted to sort of refer to sections and statutes and the rules, and extremely hard. And he was someone who actually taught me how to read the book, how to look at the sections. If there is a question asked, where do you go and find it, and how do you go and find it? And so when I saw both of them operating independently, and they had their own challenges because this guy wasn't able to commercially navigate and the other person was not able to technically sort of, have that respect, that the lawyers have with all the legalese that they use, and, how they are able to structure the conversation. So I saw both of them, and for years I saw them. And then that's when I decided to say, if a combination of both is put together, then is when you get the right kind of an in-house counsel who is commercial minded, yet knows the legalese and understands that there is an importance of the statute and reading of the statute and the interpretation of that. And also then apply it, because technical knowledge for lawyers, and this is where, I'd like to really highlight for the law students, it's great to have technical knowledge. It's great to know, case laws, and it's very, very good for you to interpret them. However, practical application when you're working as a business counsel is an extremely important, and it's a very, very, it's more of an articulation rather than anything else. And that is a skill set that if you're looking to transition to an in-house role, it's one of the skill set that is going to come very, very handy to you, where you are able to amalgamate your legal skills, your technical skills with a functional expertise
With business.
of managing it with the business.
With business first, because whenever we see law firm lawyers pitching themselves, they always say, we are commercially minded and we understand the business and all of that. So is this a major issue? Like, I think a lot of business people face a huge issue with lawyers who are very technical. So can you throw some light on that? What happens exactly? Because they speak a language that business people can't understand, and they have clashes because the business guy is saying, okay, I understand all the laws you're throwing at me, but where's my solution? And that happens a lot. So if you can explain that, like, why is this, like, no matter what you do, whether you're a law firm lawyer, you are a litigator, whether you're in-house counsel, I think that's something that's really important to understand, because most lawyers at least want to have clients, big corporation, in-house counsels are finally your client. So how does one get that right?
So Ramanuj, I'll tell you, blame it on our education. We rigorously study for 5-6 years, and we study in a particular manner. We are doing the moot courts. We are, talking, and we are always surrounded by lawyers who actually understand what we are saying and what the issue is at hand and how do you go about solving it. However, when you transition to a business place, okay, please understand and appreciate that not everybody in the room is, looking for your legal expertise, which is the first thing. You have to shed your learning and unlearn a little bit of what you've been saying so far made sense to the audience that had the relevant knowledge and understanding of that. However, now you're talking to people who couldn't care less. Like, they don't care if, you're going to talk about sui generis or, malafide, and all of these jargons don't make sense to them. What they want is, I have this problem. Do you have an answer, or you don't have an answer, right? And sometimes it's not black and white. Firstly,
and sometimes maybe they want to do something and you are coming up with your obvious legal objections. Even they know that.
Absolutely.
Right. So,
but my problem, my biggest concern, and Ramanuj, which is where you challenge the heart of the issue, is that there is a perception problem that lawyers are intermediaries. We have to break that perception problem. The biggest thing for us is to break that intermediary perception problem. I am part of the business. I'm equally invested in making this business a success. I understand, I put myself in your shoes, what you're trying to achieve, and then figure it out. See, nobody, and I'll tell you, 90% of the people don't want to do the wrong thing. Honestly, they don't want to. Okay. However, there are motivations. There are things that they are not in control. They have a product. They want to run to the market with that product. You have to understand that your objectives and their objectives are same. Once you have that understanding, you will figure out a way to communicate with them. And which is where the perception of an intermediary has to go away. I'm equally invested. My bonus is equally impacted. Whatever I make, whatever I grow in this organization, how I grow this organization, it depends on my contribution as well. When you start thinking like that, then the first hindrance is going away. Then the second piece to move away from that is invest in understanding the business. Do you really know how the business makes money? So for example, I'll tell you, I worked with alcohol companies, and for donkey's years, there are lawyers who work in that space. It's the demerit goods. It's a sin industry. Regulators are always, after you. And it's a very, very challenging role because it is very regulated. States have their own rules. There is no central rule. And, you have 29 different states, 29 different countries, how they interpret it. The biggest thing where, the understanding of law to make it possible to use the law to your business advantage. Like, I've mentioned in my article as well, look at the law as an enabler rather than a constraint, because constraint, everybody knows you're going to say no, right? So when a question comes in, take time, deliberate, understand what are the different possible ways to answer that question instead of just going and saying, legally it's not possible. It's about articulation. How do you choose to disagree, or how do you choose to agree to disagree? Those are very, very important skill set. And these are soft skills. These are not less necessarily lawyering skills. They are more like the management skills.
Right. Can you give us one or two examples maybe from your experience that, it's all, we are conceptually, maybe people can understand, but with one or two examples, it could be easier to understand.
Sure. So I'll tell you, in alcohol, for example, or when I was working for an electronic cigarettes companies as well, the government takes the call. The government owns the product, they take the call, right? So license to operate is one of the biggest things there. And so as a lawyer, you are not just a lawyer safeguarding financial liabilities or protecting the management from going to jail. You are actually responsible for the permissions and for the license to operate from the government. All right. If you don't look at it as a business enabler and work your legal strategy around creating a path to get those licenses on time, you are actually not going to help the business. You're only going to be hindering and only going to be saying no at every point in time, because there's so much of government touch point, there is so much of regulation. But once you get the book, once you make your checklist, once you train people on that checklist, it's an easy way, because ultimately the law is what? It's process. And once you crack the process and you figure it out to how to explain it in a layman's language, people generally want to follow the rule, right? So in my experience, most of the time, the successes that have come is because I have been able to solve a nagging problem for the business, whether it was supply chain related, whether it was transportation related, whether it was taking the permission from the government related. Just get to the root of the problem and address it as a business person. You have to be a lawyer, yes, but you have to be a business person. So there's a very funny quotation that one of my mentors always uses, Ramanuj, and it's like, the law firm lawyers know the rules, but the in-house guy knows the exceptions. Know your exceptions well.
I think that makes sense. When you go and tell people, look, you can't do this, but here is the exception. That I think is the moment when people say, "Oh, you are useful," right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
That's true.
Okay. So, if you can tell something about the very interesting thing that you mentioned about, policy advocacy, right? So lawyers do a lot of policy advocacy, and you have now specialized law firms as well as lawyers who does policy advocacy. If you can throw some light on this, like how does that work? Like, what is the role of an in-house counsel in policy advocacy and advocating with the government, or interfacing with regulators? What exactly do you do there?
So Ramanuj, I'll share a personal, how do I call it? This is how I manage the function. For a decade or so, I have been a general counsel. And this is how I try to manage the function. And I have a 70-20-10 rule, okay? The 70% of my time, energy, my team, and everything else initially, and the 70-20-10 is a very flexible thing. It keeps on moving. It's a moving target for us. So 70% of your time, establish the legal hygiene, the regulatory compliance framework. Things as they are in their existing business should go right. Okay, that is your concentration for the 70%. 20% of your time and resources, please try to optimize. Whatever you have existing in the 70%, invest 20% of your time to optimize it. Are you unnecessarily dragging things through litigation. There was one merger that happened, and we were part of the post-merger transaction, and we inherited like 500 lawsuits. All right, and of the 500 lawsuits, the merit was only in 15 lawsuits probably. The rest of it was just nonsensical IPR related issues, and it did not make sense. It was draining resources and the counsel fee and the litigation cost, and it didn't make sense at all. So invest 20% of your time in strategizing what you can optimize in your 70%. And then the last 10% is do the proactive work. So today you are operating your business in a scenario with these regulatory, points. For example, e-commerce or tech space or privacy laws, right? However, if tomorrow these laws change to A, to B, to C, are you prepared? Is your business prepared? Most lawyers, this is their blind spot, because they are so engrossed in doing what they are supposed to. They are firefighting everywhere. They are in the crisis team. They are, on the speed dial of the CEO. They really are into the midst of things. But somewhere we lose sight that what is making revenue today for you? If any of the dynamics or the variables change, what is it that you're going to do? So try and anticipate it. That 10% of your time and your resources, including some people in the team, should be forward-looking. Should be looking at where the policy is going. What are the things that the government is considering? What are the issues? What are the pain points that the government is facing because of my business operations or an allied business operation? If you don't have that hindsight, you are going to face a situation where you will be completely unprepared. When I was working for an alcohol company, overnight there was a Supreme Court ban on having a liquor shop at a highway.
On the highway. Yeah.
And 45, or I don't know, even more than that, 55% of outlets were on the highway. So,
wow.
And this was obviously a blind spot, because nobody could have ever anticipated that there'll be a rule like this all of a sudden. And
all of a sudden.
In any case, the liquor vends are licensed and they are very, very, small in number, and overnight 55% of your business is gone, right? The same way for electronic cigarette, which is, I was part of Juul in my last stint. It was not overnight. Obviously, there was, there were steps taken by the government, but we could see the policy moving in the direction where, and obviously it's always a good idea to work with the government, because there is no merit. There are things that you may have a opinion which is different from how the government thinks. Like, for example, in Juul's case, I think the product had its merits, but it was way beyond its times. Okay, you had to get people to understand what that product was. They should understand the utility of it, and then take the product to the market. But that's my personal opinion. It has nothing to do with anyone else. However, the government had a different view. So respecting government view, but working with them to sort of, navigate these challenges, at least get, a preliminary hearing, or, to convince them the law, works both ways, and there are rights that are available to the business. But I am not a combative lawyer. I mean, this could be a weakness in me as well. But I try to solve things, because I really think that if you understand the motivation behind why people are having a conflict, it's a much better way to solve a problem. It's an easier way to solve a problem rather than, sort of taking a combative view. So to your question, if lawyers are completely blindsided by what the policy is doing and they don't talk to the policy team, some companies are very forward looking. They have both the departments integrated, so that there is no option, and which is a good idea for them to have, because what is policy? It's law actually, right? And who writes them? So, the policy guy will come to the lawyer and ask to draft, or maybe, ask for suggestions. And if the policy guy already knows the law themselves, it's a much better thing to talk to another, regulator, because that is the language both of them can speak. So it's not that you can be completely oblivious. So that is why I always say that the counsels who are able to get the seat on the table have the nerve of the policy. They understand the regulatory framework of their product and their company, and they give that added advantage to the CEOs and the CFOs and the CMOs that, I'm taking care of this side. Okay, I'm watching it, and I'll bring to you whenever I see a red flag or an orange flag, or there is an opportunity, right? It's not just about protecting the business, it's about growing it as well.
Right, of course. So when we look at, And I don't know if you're open to talking a little more about Joule, but this is not only Joule. We have seen several companies going out of business because of policy issues in recent times. And for a while, Uber and Ola fought like really hard battles on that front, hired a lot of public policy people, large public policy teams. But in your experience, where do lawyers actually add value? Or if you can share something, like how do companies fight such situations?
So I believe that lawyers have a big role to play in disruption. Okay. And lawyers must start to believe and think like that as well, because all the disruption that happens in the world, there is some way or the other, a law change or a regulatory change that has allowed that.
Yeah, and there are incumbent players who will be affected, who will be lobbying and all of that. So, yeah.
So the challenge and the question that you posed is a very, very interesting one. And considering my background, I've always, sort of dabbled with this kind of a problem. I've been in the demerit goods. It's even harder there, Ramanuj, because you don't have an ear of the government. You are like someone who they don't want to talk, they don't want to see, right? So what are you saying? This isn't relevant to me unless you're bringing me what do you call a CSR fund, or you're bringing me something which I can look at. You don't even talk to me. You're a demerit good. You're spiritually bad. You're religiously bad. So you deal with those perceptions. But like I said, take a step back. Okay, understand what are the positives and the negatives of your product. Does the other person understand it fully? Right? I think as a strategy, regulatory certainty is the number one goal for any company, and they should invest in the right resources at the right time. Most of the times you will see a company looking out for a regulatory expert or a legal expert when they already are in midst of the crisis.
They're facing a problem.
Yes, they are already facing a problem, or they are anticipating a problem. That's when they will invest in these resources. It's a good idea to start building it from the scratch. See, India is an exceptionally opportunistic country, right? And right now with the China debate and everything else, there's going to be a lot of new things that are going to come here. However, it's also very volatile, and it has a lot of uncertainty when it comes to political decisions, how states function. It's also a dual sort of state federal thing, right? So understand, when you're trying to set up a base here, you can appreciate all the differences that India and all the cultural things that India brings to you. Also the opportunity of 250 million youngsters who are just going to become your target audience, right? And so much of income that is now in hands of these people. However, you have to understand that there are certain things you have to take from the first step. And where I see as an opportunity, and this is an opportunity a lot of companies and a lot of in-house counsel can see, start early. Start very, very early. Okay. Don't wait it out till the government has already made its decision or its mind, or there are people who are working around it.
Yeah. So start engaging with the policymakers and government really early.
Exactly.
Right. When you look at, sit at the table, right? So when you are playing a role which are very critical to the survival of the organization and so you naturally get a seat at the table. So what are those areas? Like, sure, public policy, government policy being one. What are the other very major factors and critical factors in survival and growth of a business, where in-house counsel should be focusing or growing their skills in those areas so that they get a seat at the table?
So I would say success for having the seat at the table looks like when you can influence the strategy. Right. When you are able to navigate through, existing business. Like I said, when you look at the existing business, what is it that you can do to optimize it? What is it that you can do to take it forward? And as a lawyer, you should be the one looking out for avenues where the growth can accelerate. So whether it's a merger with another entity that can add value to the shareholders, or whether it is a new line which is income as a part of the product. So for example, when I was working for a beer company, there was so there's a byproduct which is a malt that comes out, right? And so what do you do with that byproduct? Do you sell it in the market, or you use it for something which can be another business prospect, and you can also partner with the state, and you can design a whole sort of CSR program around building the communities on that. So things like those, when you on the seat on the table, when you have the trust, when the CEO believes that you are equally invested and equally interested in the success of the company as much as he is, right? So to get there is easy, but to maintain it is the most difficult part, as I believe it. Every day you have to give them the confidence that you are here for the business, you are here to solve their problems. Yes, you are also someone who will give them the bad news, but the intelligent part of it is, how do you give the bad news? How do you articulate giving the bad news? Do you just go out there and say you can't do this? Or you can say, okay, there is a challenge in doing this, but we could look at it from A, B, C, D perspective, and these are the consequences for this. And those consequences have to be legal, financial, and any other reputational as well. Sometimes lawyers are so stuck up in the legality of an issue that they can be blindsided by the ethical questions around it, by the reputational issues that can stem out of it, because these days perception is everything. So companies actually expect the in-house counsel to be a conscious keeper. If you don't have that gravitas, or if you don't have that, so otherwise you will struggle. We see so many sexual harassment cases being reported, right? How does a general counsel take that problem and solves it is one of the biggest challenges today, if you ask me. Because whether the issue is small or big is regardless, it can actually become a big problem from a corporate standpoint, from a reputational standpoint, from the perception it creates about the company, which can be very, very disastrous. So I believe earning the seat at the table on an everyday basis should be the endeavor.
But if you talk about the skills, like if we, let's say, what could be the skills? Like maybe, contracts. I mean, what would be the major areas? Contracts, litigation. I'm not sure. Maybe you can throw some light on what are the major.
Sure. So I had a very interesting. I had a very interesting interview earlier in my career, and I want to share this story. So I was applying for a legal second in the line role earlier in my career, and this was a big multinational company, and I went through a lot of rounds of interviews, and I had like 1 hour discussion with the CEO, 1 hour discussion with the CFO, 2 HR people, 1 hour each. So the entire day was done, and the hiring manager was a lawyer. Okay, and he's supposedly my mentor also as of today. And this guy, he took approximately 30 minutes by the clock to take my interview. And you know what he told me? He said, I don't care if you know the book already. I need to be sure that you will be able to find what I'm asking you in the book. All right. So to your question, the skill set required, most of all, is the aptitude and the attitude to fit in that. So law firm, in a way, is a great place to start your profession because it is a finishing school. You are under supervision of another person who has seen it through, and you have the safety net, right? Well, when you jump in-house, you are pretty much on your own. So you have to be technically skilled. You need to have management skills. You need to have partnerships. You need to have peer, and you have to understand the soft skills around required for the business. It's not going to come in easy. Like I said in the beginning of my conversation, we learned it the hard way. And if these guys can start out with some of these tips and tricks in the beginning itself, it would be extremely helpful for them. But most importantly, choose whatever you want to choose. A law firm side, generally, I see a specialization works in your favor, where you have to try and make a name for yourself. As a legal in-house counsel, you have to be a generalist. You can't be stuck up on the areas of law.
One area of law.
Yes. So you have to be a generalist. You will have problems in HR. You will have problems in the business. You will have a problem in sales tax. You will have a problem in customs. And you are supposed to solve all of them. You cannot say that this is not my area of expertise. That is not a benefit that you have as an in-house counsel. So one of the skills is have a wide knowledge, be a jack of all and master of none, if I can say it.
But sometimes there are like specialist in-house roles also. Like somebody's hired only for contract management or only for labor and employment law or only for those things are also there, right? Or maybe banking contracts or litigation. Yeah?
So that depends on the team structure, but I am one of the maverick believers, even when I was running a team, and I've had the privilege of actually, running a team of 30 plus lawyers and corporate affairs professionals in my past lives. And my endeavor is always, you should learn whatever you can lay your hands on. You can be a specialist, you could be a, whatever. Don't stop learning. Every day try to do something else, because the wider your experience, the breadth of the experience is going to make a lot of difference in how you're going to deliver your objectives.
Right. So a lot of questions have come through in between, and I'm going to start taking some of those. But before that, one more question that, if somebody is trying to become an in-house counsel, right now, one step is that you have got a job as an in-house counsel. That's step one. But from there, let's say you are looking ahead, okay, 10 years, 15 years, I want to become a general counsel. What does the road look like?
So there is no road. Like I said, I am someone who started out as an in-house counsel because this is where my heart landed. And this is something very personal to me. I like outcome-based work, right? As an in-house counsel, and so far I have not taken it up because I think that you have multiple clients to serve, right? And you do the best possible for each of the clients, but you don't really see the result of what you've done for them, right? As an in-house counsel, you get that. So what is the road? I would say if someone spent a significant amount of time in a law firm in this profession as a litigator or whatever it is, their clients would be a good place to start because they would know what this person brings on the table, and they would be comfortable, hiring someone who they've seen their work for. Otherwise, also, I think there are corporates today, like I mentioned, you see, there are so many openings for general counsel these days. There are so many openings for in-house counsel. Companies are actually looking forward to have a person in-house who is able to take care of these issues. Even if most of the work is done by external counsel, they need someone to manage the external counsel as well. So it is not such a difficult thing now to, earlier the transition. In fact, I think the difficult transition would be now for a person like me who's an in-house counsel to make it back to the law firm. I don't know if they're going to ever accept me that way. So I would say persevere. If this is the kind of job that you like, where you have to really take it to the end game, like the end line, it's not, you can't leave it in between. So as a law firm lawyer, you get a query from your client, right? And you answer it back. You don't know what happens to that query most of the time, right? Sometimes you may know. Sometimes it becomes a big project and you're involved in it and you take it to the end. However, as an in-house counsel, every brief, every story, every query that you get, you are responsible for the end result of it as well. So if you are interested in that kind of lawyering, then there are multiple opportunities. Networking is one another thing. Your clients can refer you to people who are looking for in-house counsel. There is a lot of law firm related interaction that happens with in-house counsel. Try and make it to those forums, and try and speak about your work and try to explain people what you can do. I'm a big believer that that people who have potential, and everybody has potential, honestly. People who are able to sort of network their way, where people are able to see their potential, are the ones that get these opportunities more often than people who are just sitting back and waiting for an opportunity to come.
Right. So you have to, first of all, demonstrate, you have to have the skills and then demonstrate the skills. So This is what we tell to our students also all the time. Build your skill and then demonstrate. Don't forget to demonstrate.
Correct.
Okay. So we have got a lot of questions. So let's take up a few of them. We have 20 minutes left. Before that, I want to share the results of the poll so far. We have had 62 people who have voted. So 62 people at least who have attended. Out of that, 15%, 9 of them have been litigators. And then 52% are law students. 16% are 10 of them are in-house counsels, and 5%, 3 of them law firm lawyers, and 13% others. Wow. The others is a mysterious category. I don't know. Some of them I suspect are people who are transitioning between jobs. So they should write it. But I don't know who are the others, maybe clients, who knows. So maybe they're planning to study law or something, that is also possible.
Yeah.
So some quick questions that have come through. There's Anand Gopal. I'm a law graduate, worked with law firms for a couple of months, currently doing LawSikho course and doing company secretary course, trying to get a in-house counsel job. And he has asked another question later, is that, how do I, what is the entry point if I want to become an in-house counsel? So maybe this is a preliminary question that you can take up.
No problem. Actually, Anand, you should make a list of companies where you would be interested to work in. So every person has a liking or a disliking of the kind of product they want to be in, the industry they want to be in, the sector they want to be in. Make a list, like 5 or 6 companies, and try to research them as much as possible. Understand who are the people who are leading the legal function there. Try and establish a connect there. Explain what is the skill set that you have, and then approach them. And I don't have a problem if somebody directly approaches me, honestly. It's a good thing, because I think that that person is willing to take a chance, and if that person is out there, and you, when you're looking for a job or you're looking for work, you have to be out there. Okay, you can't be hiding behind and then expecting people to come to you. So reach out to them and pitch them, and see if they agree that your skill set matches or not. And if they don't agree, then ask for feedback as what do they think is missing in your profile. Then take that feedback seriously, and in all honesty, take that feedback, work on it, and go back again. And when you go back as a follow-up with the skills brushed, I'm sure that person is going to look to you twice. So always do this, but it's your choice, because you have to decide what interests you, what are the sectors that you would be able to add value to, and then make your line of approach like that.
So there is something that we do for our students, and you can tell me if this makes sense. So what we do is that we ask them to identify, again, like you say that, in an industry, identify 30 people that you want to impress. Okay. So let's say you want to work in the NBFC sector, and this is not only for people who want a job, but people who want clients as well. You identify those 30 people, and then what you do next is that you identify their most, burning problems, right?
Yeah.
So if you are looking at the car industry right now, it could be a big concern that can they import things from China, parts from China, etc. So that's a very good question. That if you want to work for Ferrari, we had interviewed the general counsel of Ferrari, and then a few days back Rolls-Royce. So they do have these problems, that can they actually import things, and now they are solving the problem at their level. They don't need your expert advice. But if you write an article about this problem, then they see that, oh, you are somebody who's thinking about the problem that they really have. So there's like somewhere there's a matching of interests and thoughts and all of that. And who knows, maybe there's one suggestion in your article that they find very interesting, or that they did not think of. It can impress them a lot. So if you write, such 1 or 2 articles every week, and you start publishing, and then you have made a list of those 30 people, right? So find the email IDs, add them on LinkedIn, and then you start sharing your articles and asking them for feedback. And remember, you're not sending irrelevant, idiotic articles, right? You are sending something which is up their alley and very much relevant to them. So they're going to open.
I will go a step further. I will say the person who is directly impacted with that problem, write to him directly.
Absolutely.
Explain to him the pain that he has, and also offer him the solution. If he likes your ideas, he might probably reach out to you without delay, right? You don't even have to write an agnostic article. You can just write to that person, because these days everybody understands that they don't have the answers to all questions.
And, correct. The reason we asked them to write an article is because a lot of times they're young and they don't have the exact skill set, but by writing an article, it's going through a vetting process, so it goes through the editor, it goes through somebody, and it gets enriched. Somebody may give them a feedback, say, improve, this is wrong, fix it. So, it gives you that buffer, and then you publish it. And also, if you have added people on your LinkedIn and you share it on your LinkedIn, you share it on your alumni group, for that matter, in your college, and ask people for feedback, people are going to read it, and people who will find it relevant will share it with many people. Very highly likely that some executive of an auto company picks it up and shares it with this entire group of company saying that, oh, look at this, what are you doing about this, etc. Right? So it really is spreadable. Like you write to one person, goes to only one person. You write an article, it could be read by 1,000 people in the next 1 year or 2 years, etc. So it's a really good investment into your this thing. And what we say is that you do this and you keep sharing, and within maybe a month or two, you will start hearing back from people, and people will reach out to you. The moment they have hirings to do, they will be reaching out to you. The other advice we share is that connect with in-house counsels, see if they want to write articles, if they want to do something else, like, maybe they want to do some profile building. Maybe you can help them. Maybe you can be a research assistant for a while, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. You get to build really deep relationships, especially for the younger law students. Law graduates, it might be a little harder to do so. But I think these are a couple of techniques that we teach to our students, and I'm happy to share it with everybody if anybody can go and apply this. But what do you think? Does this strategies make sense to you as an in-house counsel?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also say look for internships, look for short-term projects. These days, companies come out with summer projects, like a 3-month thing. Try and engage. Most of the companies before going to the campus are actually going out there and asking people to do summer projects. In fact, at one of the organizations, there is a particular profile of people who fit the legal policy, public policy space, right? But you don't have those, and these are institutes that are coming up, and they're polishing the lawyers into that public policy, but you don't have like the readily available, like lawyers, you can, corporate lawyers, you can find them plenty, right? Compliance professionals, 5 years back, you were not able to find them, but now actually you can find them because there have been, educational qualifications that help you get those skill sets. However, regulatory policy is one area where we're still building it up. We're still not there. It's coming up in a big way, but it's still not there. So how do you get, so one of the experiments that we had run in one of the companies is that we hired people from ISB actually, and asked them to do, one project on a public policy space, on a category space. All right. And then show if that is going to make sense. And out of the batch of 10 people, one person's ideas and one person's interest was great, right? What we did was we hired them as a trainee, and then we sponsored them for a law degree. They could do a law degree, and then they could come back after doing their law and join in the public policy or the regulatory space. So there are in-house counsels who are looking for new ways to attract talent, and it's out there everywhere. It's just that, opportunity needs to strike both ways. The corporate needs that kind of a talent, and the talent also needs that kind of a corporate.
Yeah, and this is a question that comes a lot of times, that as a fresher, like right out of college, is it a good idea to join in-house counsel roles, or is it possible? Is it a good idea? Should you join later? There are some companies which hire freshers into in-house counsel.
So I'm probably the wrong person for this, because I started out as an in-house counsel. I am not someone who went to a law firm. I worked a lot with the law firms, and I see value in what they do, and if you are cut out for that kind of a work, then by all means go there. But if you really want to end up being a business lawyer, I don't really think that there is of course companies put it out there in their JDs that they would prefer someone who has the law firm and the in-house experience. We still have the time to work around those biases. But if you go and present yourself in an interview with the kind of things that the organization is looking, I don't think it's a hindrance. You just go and show up and make yourself available out there and say that I want always to be a business lawyer. And which is why, without having any experiences, I'm coming here, and you give me experience, or you give me a chance, and I'll try.
Yeah, and you can learn the work that an in-house counsel have to do, right? You don't have to wait for that. So if you want, as a fresher, to work in an in-house counsel, of course, you go and do internships, and you have to stand out. Like you said, one person out of 10 really stood out. So you have to go and show your skills and interest and all of that. Now, how does it work what is the work that you have to do as an in-house counsel? This is a question that Anubhav Garg asked. And what is the difference with a law firm? What do law firms do that in-house counsels don't? And what is it that in-house counsels do that lawyers don't? And what is the work?
So I tried to answer this a little bit earlier as well. When you work in a law firm, you have clients. and you know, your entire world is around your clients and to make them happy, and you are actually taking instructions from them, and
That's
you're
true for
delivering.
in-house counsel also. You have one client, but you have
I'll
to
tell
make.
you. I'll tell you. So, as an in-house counsel, you have one client, okay, with 10,000 problems. Okay, the difference is you have here maybe 10 clients with 10 problems. You have one client with 10,000 problems. And as an in-house counsel, and if it's an organization that really is proactive and, you know, takes the considered view of lawyers, because I have had the opportunity, Ramanuj, to be associated with companies who knew the value of a lawyer. So I didn't have to struggle to create that value in the first place. Like I say, I'm always thankful to my predecessors who were able to create that value for us.
That
And the
space
good thing,
already.
yes, and the good thing is that the people who are coming in now, they have even more advantage, because now it's a set, you know, a CLO is one of the critical positions for most of the companies, if not all, right? So having said that, the work that an in-house counsel does can be a wide variety of things. It could be a procurement contract. It could be a supplier negotiation. It could be a litigation. It could be a question around, I have to ship my product to this place and the custom has blocked
Advisory. There'll be advisory
So
question.
it's a whole gamut. It could be an HR issue. There's an employee issue. There is a, you know, there is a
property
problem.
issue.
Yeah. So there is no hard or fast.
There's no limit. Every law that exists can come up and, you know, have some implication on you. But I'm like, if I look at it this way, if I try to create some buckets, it could be like, you know, compliance is one major bucket, and then you have contracts is a bucket, drafting, negotiation, management, enforcement, and then you will have litigation is a bucket maybe, and then what else? Maybe, you know, IP is a bucket, but, you know, pretty much I'm guessing.
Ramanuj, I'll just add one line here. The counsel who are able to earn the trust and who are able to really integrate themselves in the business are the ones where they are CC'd generally on everything.
It's advisory, basically.
In my opinion, if you ask me, what does success?
You're an advisor. Yeah.
What does success look like for an in-house counsel? That you are CC'd on every mail, because people really want you to be in the loop. Okay, for you to be overseeing any of the decisions that they are taking. That's your success parameter.
Right.
And until and unless you reach there, you have to keep working.
Yeah, and what I understand with the difference between law firms and in-house counsel. So when a company is having two reasons they might go to an outside counsel. If they have a good in-house team, two reasons they might go outside. One is that they have bulk of work and they need to get it done cheaper, and in-house will be costlier. So there's a law firm which gives you a quote that, you know, will do it like cheaper for you and at a scale or whatever. The other reason is,
my opinion would be extremely biased. Don't ask me.
Okay, but people do this, right? People do this. The other reason they go to outside lawyers is because they don't have a reach. So, for example, I cannot go and argue a matter if I'm in-house counsel in a tribunal or in a court. So I'll have to hire, especially if it is like say a consumer case in Jammu. The lawyer is not going to go from here to argue that. So obviously there would be like, you know, outside counsels. And then there is infrequent work. So suddenly there's a competition law matter and we don't have in-house expertise, or you're doing a deal and you don't do deals often, not like you do 10 deals a year, but you're doing one deal, you know, in a long time. So then you'll go to an outside lawyer definitely, right? For those kind of one-off things. Does it like, you know, that's what the law firm lawyers. So law firm lawyers are highly specialized doing a few things, and in-house counsels dealing with bulk of the business matters. Is that kind of correct?
Yes, but the expectation today is that the in-house, if they are building a team in-house, then the expectation is that you have minimalistic, you know, interaction with the external.
With the outside.
Bring the cost down, because
bring the cost.
Yeah, but this is where a smart general counsel has to understand what are the operational legal operations that can be outsourced versus what are the strategic resources that are required. And sometimes it's a combination of both. Like you mentioned, if there's a deal or a transaction well, in-house can also manage a deal or a transaction. However, sometimes you need specialized knowledge. Any deal would need a tax lawyer. Any deal would need, a closing expert. Any deal would need someone to look at it from a third party, unbiased.
No, not only that, like if somebody has, let's say, negotiated investment into 30 power projects and we have done only one or we have done only two, there's
Right.
no way we'll have that much perspective as the other guy. So it makes
Right.
sense to go to a specialized person who does this every day, right? Because they have a better understanding of the market.
I've also seen deals where you had to actually approach 30 plus lawyers for different things. Like you had to go to the competition lawyer to check whether this agreement, is clear from a competition aspect. Then you had to go to a PPE expert who was able to, see the power project and, synergize with that kind of an understanding. So once you're working on high value transactions, obviously you try to hedge your risk. You try to take opinion as much as possible.
Yeah, I think very rarely in-house teams venture into doing deals, and if they have to, then they hire like a full team of they hire a team of people who will do the due diligence or everything. Like that's it. You know that you're going to do 10, 12, 15 acquisitions next year. You might start by hiring a partner from a law firm with his team to run all of that. Makes sense. It will save money. So that's also a call that the general counsel takes, right?
So somebody has asked a question as to how did you decide the sector you wanted to practice in?
Yeah, that's an interesting.
So I don't know. I'm a sucker for problems, I think, because I chose the demerit goods and I chose the sin products or forever. But I also, like I mentioned earlier, I think I have the aptitude and the attitude. You need to understand that crisis is the name of the game. Ambiguity is your best friend. In certain industries. Right now, I think tech is going through one of its own challenges where, they are struggling with reputational issues, they are struggling with privacy issues, they are struggling with, trust issues of people as well. People, how do you choose a sector? Probably each individual will have their own aspects of.
I think there's one more factor that you also want to see where more jobs are, especially given the situation in the job market. You want to think that which industry is growing really fast and can I go there, right? I mean that makes a lot of sense. So tech sector is growing very fast. So we advise a lot of people that why don't you see if you like these tech issues, then there are a lot of tech companies which are hiring. Media industry is growing very fast, so that could be interesting. FMCG could be interesting because that's growing.
Pharma, healthcare. I mean,
pharma. Right now, it's big.
Yeah, it's big, right? So
there was a time when one after another foreign pharma company left India. They sold their India businesses and moved out. Like a year back, it was completely dead, and right now it's different. Like we don't know what anything is possible, right, in pharma.
So make a list of what you would like to do and also then check out what the times are telling you and then based on that make a decision.
There's a very good question. I think it's a question that many people have good in the sense. Ananya Singh is asking, I'm an LLM student. I'm keen on working as an in-house counsel. However, I don't have any prior internship or work experience in the field. How can I make up for it now? So LLMs are these days mostly 1 year LLMs, sometimes 2 years, but mostly 1 year. How can I make up for it to get a job as an in-house counsel? So like imagine 6 months, 8 months left. What can she do to graduate with a job as an in-house counsel?
So I'll tell you, Ananya, and I don't have a pill as an answer.
Magic wand,
wand or a magic pill for you. But honestly, if you really are interested in an in-house counsel role, and there is a sector or there is an industry that you have interest in, start by researching it. Understand the legal challenges of that industry, and like Ramanuj suggested, write an article or reach out to the person who's facing that problem and discuss that issue with them. Take opinion of other people who are veterans from that industry. You find a lot of people on LinkedIn these days and they're ready to help. They are ready to give you counseling. Get on a call with some of these people, talk to them, understand what are the issues, pertinent issues, and then start from there. If you start taking interest and it starts to make, one thing will lead to another and you will land something or the other. Yeah. Experience to me is overrated, guys. When I used to hire, and I hire still, I go by a lot of other things and not just experience. Experience is important in certain critical places where you're looking for specialized knowledge. However, my belief, and it could be it could be challenged by anyone, but my belief is that potential is everywhere. As a leader, as a mentor, somebody, you need to find someone who's able to shape your skill set into the things that you're
Yeah, that said, Pooja, but I think right now, given the market is such a situation, like imagine you have to hire, right? And you put out that okay word that I'm hiring. The people will apply. They have 3-4 years of experience. They'll also apply. And Ananya will also apply, being a fresh graduate or with an LLM. She'll also apply. And somewhere I feel that it's a little bit uneven, competition. That's especially in a market like this where there are fewer jobs and more competition. So I think some basic things that could be done is that you must know some basic skills like contract drafting. You should know some basics of compliances. So if you start asking questions in the interview that okay, what are the compliances that you know of, should be able to rattle off some of the things, at least not everything, but should be able to explain that, has the basic understanding of it.
Two things I'll point out here, Ramanuj. Don't always look for a paid internship. Unpaid internships can actually be a lot of good experience on your CV. I feel a challenge where, there's a headcount requirement. There is a ceiling on how much money people can spend. But if you are offering your services voluntarily or on a project assignment base, people are generally more open and they can have a discussion internally.
Correct.
So be upfront about it that you're not looking for a paid internship, you're looking for experience. That will really catch the attention. The second thing is, don't be shy to act as a consultant or do a project on an assignment basis. Sometimes people are stuck up on having a full-time job. It's not important. As long as you're learning, as long as you're delivering, as long as you're meeting the objectives that are required, be willing to open the space and agree to take a job on consultation. Okay. Yeah. And that is where you can actually hone your skills as well, because you will get without a full-time job, you will get a hang of what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And people are more to give you on a contractual basis rather than hiring you full-time, which will cost them a head count and all.
Correct. Yeah. And another brilliant thing that works now, who wouldn't have worked in your time, but now it really works very well, is that we send people to startups which have just got 10-20 people, a crore of turnover, and they don't have lawyers, and they have no legal, nothing, they have no clue, right? But we tell them that why don't you take somebody as a lawyer and law student, maybe they can come and look at what are your problem areas, maybe you can see, and people are very happily accept those interns, and those interns get a lot of exposure, right? So right now such people are basically drafting their own contract, so they're just copying something from the internet and sending it. At least a lawyer looks at it, law student, a young lawyer looks at it, even without experience, can, just by the fact that you're sitting there and trying to figure out, you can figure out many things. And if you get that experience of working with in such places, very soon I think your growth is really it speeds up, and you have a more overall understanding of things, and that really shows in your interviews if you ever get one. So,
or become an entrepreneur yourself, become a startup player yourself. I mean, there's no stopping you.
Sure.
That is always the tech space is coming. Legal tech is one of the biggest areas now. Legal operations is another one. Start your own work stream probably. If you're good at something, exploit it.
Sure. There's a question on how do I prepare myself and acquire the necessary skills in the long run to work. I think it's the same question more or less, what are the necessary skills in the long run to work as in-house counsel? Do you have anything to add? There's another question. I'm a fresh law graduate working as an in-house lawyer with an NBFC. This is another question. I wanted to know what all skills as in-house lawyer should include. The same question. Everybody wants to know what are the skills that are important. Do you want to add anything about that?
No, I just would say that whatever I've spoken so far, the crux of it is that you first need to have the aptitude and the attitude, because it's going to be coming with its own challenges. You probably, for example, I'll tell you, wherever I have joined, I started out as a number 2 or when I was leading the function also, I started out as an individual contributor. Okay. And then I went on to create value and, create a perception of a strategic function, and then earn a team for myself. It doesn't come in very easy. the concept of in-house is they want somebody in the company who can guide them through the challenges for which they don't want to go outside. And it could be because of cost, it could be because of trust, it could be because of things that are sensitive, it could be because of reputation. There could be a multiple things there. So if you are interested in the in-house role, one is be prepared to be a generalist. You can have your specialties, but be prepared to be a generalist. And you can also join a team as a junior lawyer and continue to have your specialty. But then you, again, if you want to grow in the system, you will have to, again, widen your scope and become a generalist. So that's the number one skill. The second is you should be someone who understands the business. If you don't understand the business and you are someone, then you're equivalent to an outside lawyer, which, like I said, they know the rule, but they don't know the exception. And unless you know the exception, you can't make it work. The third thing is you need to have a business-like mind, and you need to appreciate what other functions are doing. Because as a legal function in a company, you can't be agnostic. You can't just work in a silo and say, I'm the lawyer, I'm concerned with law and nothing else. That doesn't work in an in-house. You need to know finance, you need to know HR, you need to know supply chain, you need to know sales, you need to know marketing, and there is no way around it. So you need to have a flavor of every function, and that's when you will be able to do the job well.
There's a very interesting question from Kehan Gora. It's asking, LLM only qualification an actual requirement for in-house roles, or is this a myth?
Not at all. I don't think so.
There's no relevant of
LLM. I don't think so at all.
Not at all. All right. I'll take one last question, I guess. This is the most companies, Anuradha again, most companies have specified department for every work. How to get an overall experience? If I'm employed in litigation, how to get an exposure of other work areas?
Absolutely. So this is where in-house has a slight edge over a law firm, because when you're an in-house lawyer, the issues that will come to you, Anuradha, will, whether you like them or you don't like them, will push you to work with those departments. So how would I know how the sales function is doing? If I get a contract where I'm supposed to write, for them, how the company is going to honor a sales contract, I need to know what sales are going to happen, how the sales process is going to run, what is the reporting requirement, and what is the objective I'm trying to say. So when you work in-house, you by default get that exposure around other functions because your work depends on them. As a law firm person, you might be a specialized, skill set. You might be into litigation only. But when you go in-house, even when you're managing just litigation for in-house, you will need to know what is the litigation. It's debt recovery. Okay, what happened? Sales guy, sold something to a trader or a distributor. He's defaulted. You will still need to go into the business setup and understand how the sales process worked, what went wrong. And then similarly for anything that comes up in an in-house role, that's the advantage you have. You actually get to work with other functions all the time.
Great. There's one short question from Manju. It is like, can there be only one lawyer in an in-house counsel? Sorry, in-house company, in-house team in a company? The answer is no. There are very large teams.
So I started in one of the organizations. I started out as an individual contributor. I was the only person.
In-house.
And I went on to build a team. And then when I left it, it was about 30 plus lawyers, corporate affairs, communication professionals.
Right. We worked with training in the in-house legal team at ICICI Bank. That may be the largest one in India, and they had over 300 lawyers at the time. So, there are large weight, it's like bigger than many law firms in India, right? So it happens. Right. So, okay, great. I have shared the poll results with everybody. So we had 13% litigators, and we finally total 72 people took the polls. And thank you for whoever joined. We would love to get a quick feedback. And my request is that whatever you learned today, it's a great way to connect with others. You can today go on LinkedIn right after this session and share your feedback over there, that what did you learn, what is your takeaway, and you can tag Pooja Bedi, and you can tag me also if you like, you can tag LawSikho if you like, and share your feedback, especially, it would really help you to connect with a large number of people. They will also learn whatever you shared. It will help us in future to build a larger community, and then you'll also, in a way, you'll get connected with Pooja, because you'll be tagging her, right? So that will be great. So it's a
So
great
I'd
way
also
to.
like to thank everybody who made the time today. Ramanuj, thank you so much. It was great talking to you, and anything that we can do in the future, I'd be happy to collaborate. And to all the people in the call, if you have any more questions and if there are things that I have left unanswered, please reach out to me. I'll be very happy to answer your questions. I'm also happy to give you a mentoring lesson. I'm also happy to give you advice if you need. I'm always available. Please reach out.
Great. Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining, and thank you very much, Pooja. Hope to host you again for some more sessions, and you share some more insights with us. Thank you very much, and everybody have a great weekend. Whatever is left of the weekend, take care and enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you, Ramanuj.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.